Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem HaRakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone that rule well, and shalom to all the brothers doing the work of Syrian truth. Um, yeah, this article on usnews.com comes from Reuters. It says what? Kremlin plays down idea that Russia is preparing a nuclear weapons test. And yeah, it's funny because it's been from the jump, really. It's been the talking point of if nukes are going to be used in this in this conflict. It's saying like, oh, if there's a strike in Europe, then everyone NATO is going to have to do things. And essentially it's that's a thing that's going to go down. That's in prophecy, is that the missiles, they got a job, they've got a use, they've basically been set it up for something. And it's funny that we're now seeing that be spoken about time and again, because that's where it's all going, and that's in the forefront of everyone's minds. It says what? Kremlin plays down idea that Russia is preparing a nuclear weapons test. So it says the Kremlin on Friday played down the idea that Russia might be preparing to carry out a nuclear weapons test, saying all nuclear states were abiding by a moratorium on testing of nuclear weapons. And yeah, I think what was it? It's North Korea really that's been testing missiles. And then you had a few days ago, South Korea, the US sent like a nuclear submarine, which for me is more looking in, because they're saying it's for North Korea, but it's more looking into in and around China and Russia, because China's obviously looking to do things in Taiwan, and then Russia's already doing things. So that's more what it looks like. So it says it was responding to an interview given by Lynn Tracy, the U.S. ambassador to Moscow, who told the Kommersant newspaper that Russia was the only country talking about the resumption of nuclear testing. President Putin said in February, without signed evidence, that some in Washington were considering breaking a moratorium on nuclear testing, and that Russia should be ready to act in kind. If the US conducts tests, then we will. No one should have dangerous illusions that global strategic parity can be destroyed. When asked about Tracy's comments, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov played down the idea that Moscow was planning its own nuclear tests. So yeah, they're basically it's what do you call it? It's been a hot talking point, and it's something that I can very likely see popping off, man. And regardless, anyway, it's all about going through the spirit. Prophecy set to where this conflict's gonna go nuclear. Everyone's gonna get involved. Middle East is gonna heat up, and we're seeing pieces being put in place for that. Because as well, the other thing, the main thing is what the rice grain of Karagma that needs to get pushed out, and that we're seeing more and more kind of being laid down. The financial side being impacted, with the banks in US, the Silicon Valley Bank, going tits up. And it's funny because you've kind of had crypto had a huge, I think it was after what's called FTX. After FTX, crypto went tits up for a hot minute. It went tits up for a hot minute. So they're basically been looking slowly more and more to be like, okay, we need to bring in the CBDC, the central bank digital currency version, basically one set by the government, and then that will be the standard. You might still have a few other cryptos kind of popping, but then it's a whole new structure, and then that gives what the elites are after, that control, because that's a big part. There's the nuclear tensions between Russia and the US have increased since the start of the conflict with Ukraine, with Putin repeatedly warning that Russia is ready to use its nuclear arsenal if necessary to defend its territorial integrity. Yeah, this is what, strikes fear in the hearts of everyone, but they don't know it's these things are destined. They've been set. The arsenal is going to get put to use, man. It says in February, Putin announced Russia was suspending its participation in the New START treaty, the last remaining nuclear arms pact with the US, which limits the number of strategic warheads each side can deploy. So yeah, they're not even dealing with the START treaties, which I think they've gone in and out of that anyway. So what? Because why? It's getting to that point where these things are getting turned up again. Ezekiel 38:4, it says, "And I will turn thee back, and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." Yeah, all, the hooks getting turned back. They're being arrayed in, that military hardware, man. The military in the modern days, military technologies, missile systems, them planes, them guns, them tanks. These things are all being arrayed, and then you got the the block, the Russian Chinese block, where you had Iran sending what do you call it, tanks? No, not tanks. Sorry, drones. Sending their drones over, and it's funny because it was forever ago. Then man, the US dropped a drone in Iran, and them man must have reverse engineered that shit to make their own shit, which is now being used. So that's all, flying through the spirit. And it says what Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, and Persia's the main one. That Iran, formerly known as Persia, now they call it Iran in the modern day. That's one of the key ones. It says Goma and all these bands, all in the shield and helmet. Goma and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Yeah, be thou a guard unto them. So that's why you're gonna have, that's why you've had. It's like even from the jump really of the Syria situation, Assad, one of the first things he said, like, yo, Russia, come through and deal with this. But then you still have what? It's essentially being used as a planes for, like, between Iran and the fuck are they called, and the state of Israel. That's more or less they've been getting involved, because why? They see it as a way for them to come against an ally of Iran, essentially. Read this, Matthew 12:26. Well, it's 12 and 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom dividing against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And yeah, this essentially is what's going on with Esau. It says, well, if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And that's what's going down with Esau now. Satan's being divided against himself. How you've got Edomites in over in Esau Edom in Russia, Esau Edom in Europe, Esau Edom in America, and then they're contending, man. You got Esau Edom in Britain coming against Esau Edom in Europe. That's essentially Esau fracturing himself. And then you go to Daniel 2, it said what, the feet and miry toes, where it said they'll cleave together, but not, they'll not cleave together. They'll essentially, there'll be an alliance, but they won't come together as one peoples. They ain't just being like just the Romans or just the Greeks. Now it's, you got the French, the British, the Americans, the Australians, the Russians, the Bulgaria. You got a variety of all these different nations where, with NATO especially, they'll come together. But then what? They're not, they're not as one. They're not all in accord, and that's how it's going to be flipped. Isaiah 54:16, it says, "But behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals on the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy." Yeah, the smiths, they all basically put together after World War II, where that nuclear technology was developed through chiefly these German scientists, man, doing work. And then that's from then you've basically had that new age, that nuclear age, where it's been the height of destruction. Because when what's his name, that Oppenheimer quote, which movies coming out from what's his name, Christopher Nolan. So likely it will probably be worthwhile to watch. There'll be a few things in there, I'm sure. But what says, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," that's Esau thinking he's ascended to a higher level, man. And that's the thing with these technologies. He's basically trying to substitute himself in for the Most High. He's like, okay, well, the Lord can destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, it's like, okay, well, we can do the same thing. We can make fire come from heaven. We got the military technologies. We got the missiles. We got the nukes. We can make these things happen ourselves. And that's the mindset of the people in the world, where they're viewing it that way. But they don't realize these things are a show of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshua's power. He said, "What? I have created the waster to destroy." Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is the one that's established all this. To what? How it's gonna go down, man. Proverbs 16:4. "The Lord Yahweh hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil." And yeah, straight, all things have been made. Esau has been established as it is now. He's been put on this level. It's the same thing as with Pharaoh. When Pharaoh was being looked at like, damn, how can you even come against this guy? Pharaoh's on a madness. Like, what's going on? It's like, this guy is so established. How could Egypt fall? To the point where later on, as the curses, when the curses haven't even come to their fullness, the old man, they're just saying like, yo, don't you realize Egypt's already fallen? Like, it was done. It was toast. Like, it'd been completely battered by them curses. And it's funny because it's similar. There's people where they'll prior generations where they've seen what America was, and they've seen it, slow decline. And they're like, damn, the U.S. ain't even like at that height where it once was. Nowadays, it's funny. The new generation don't even think about the things that came prior. They don't even know what they've lost. But then it's like, what, them older Edomites that were around back in the day, they're like looking like, damn, what the fuck happened, man? What happened to my country? That's what they should, man. They should have been thinking like, why are the elites like fucking cutting them out? But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yabba Shem Shalom.